Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hello, everyone. Today we're talking to Judy Hoberman, president of Selling in a Skirt and bestsellers of the book Selling in a Skirt, Famous Isn't Enough and Pure Wealth, 26 Ways to Crazy Profitability. She's also a radio show host of Selling in a Skirt that you can catch on Mondays at noon Central on the Woman for Women Network. Welcome, Judy.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Cool. Well, for starters, let me just say that it's a very impressive bio you got there. So before we begin, why don't you explain to our listeners a little bit about your background?
Absolutely. I come from a world of men. And when I say that, I mean I worked in all male-dominated industries. And I was either the only female or one of the only females in the industries. And so I learned a tremendous amount of how to be successful from very, very successful men. But that only took me so far because I'm a woman. So a lot of the things that they would ask me to do didn't work in my personality or vice versa. So I started out in construction and I ended up in insurance for over 2 decades. And it's been a wonderful experience for me, but it also gave me the ability to see how men and women do things differently. And so coming from that background is really how I decided to go forward and start a company all about women.
Nice. And on that note, when is it that you decided to go out and help others better their lives?
I actually thought about that about 30 years ago because I thought I need help and there were no women to help me. And it wasn't, a lot of women will say, well, women don't want to help women, but that wasn't the case for me. There weren't any women. So, 30 years ago, I was like taking mental notes about how I could help other women. So really, honestly, it started about 30 years ago, but it really came to fruition about 10 years ago when I decided that it really was my passion and my mission to help other women succeed in a sales industry that a lot of women didn't want to be in or didn't like to be in. And I wanted to make sure that they understood you can still be very successful and still be feminine as opposed to trying to always mimic men. And not that I have anything against men, because just because I'm pro-woman doesn't mean I'm against men. I think that men bring a lot to the table. I talk about differences. And so that's really, when I decided to do this about 10 years ago, I work with men and women to introduce communication skills and relationship building. So that's how it started.
Nice. Yeah, men are essential, right? So.
Absolutely.
Phew. Exactly. What is selling in a skirt? Just describe to us what that is. That's an interesting name.
Okay. Yeah, so the company is actually called Selling in a Skirt, and I was trying to think of something that, first of all, people would remember, because you know as well as I do that when you brand yourself, it has to be something that's memorable. It can't be Sales 101, because nobody's going to remember that. So Selling in a Skirt, to me, it brings up the image of women selling, because women generally wear skirts other than a kilt, which men will wear. But it gives you a vision to remember about women in sales. And so Selling in a Skirt is all about how to succeed in business as a female, and also how men and women can communicate effectively and make this combination more of an asset rather than a liability. So it is about women in sales, whether you're selling to a woman, whether you're buying from a woman, whatever the case may be, but it's also about how men and women interact and how you can be successful if you just listen to each other, because that's really what it is. There's nothing unusual about it. It's real basic, but sometimes you forget the basics.
Yeah, makes sense. And what were some of the unexpected hurdles when you first introduced this concept to businesses?
Interesting thing is that 9 out of 10 people loved the idea. They said it was very timely, that we really needed to talk about bringing more women into sales. And so I really got some great feedback. The 1 out of 10 was either somebody that could care less, which was fine, or it was a man that would say to me, I don't wear a skirt, so therefore this is ridiculous. And so when I started to explain that skirt really is an acronym, it's not necessarily the article of clothing, and I would talk about how skirt actually means standing out, keys to success, inspiration, results, and time management, all of a sudden that person would like look at me and say, oh my goodness, I have trouble doing, results or whatever it is, because somebody somewhere has at least one piece of the skirt that they have difficulty with. So the hurdle was trying to explain it in a way that people would actually get it. And so that was my biggest hurdle. And the other biggest hurdle was when I started my company, it was the worst year for the economy. So training was out, coaching was out. So I started speaking everywhere so people could at least get an idea of what was possible.
Very interesting. And what is one common problem you see among your clients, as an example?
Well, I think that most people truly believe that bringing women into their businesses is vital. But the problem is they either don't want to take the time to, bring women in and communicate effectively or train women, or the problem is that they just don't think that there is a problem. I think that one of my biggest problems that I actually see is accountability among almost everyone, and male or female. It doesn't really make a difference. And so when I go into a company, I will do an assessment, and almost every single time somebody will say to me, I wish I had more accountability. I wish somebody would be telling me, keep track of what I'm supposed to be doing. Not that you can't be self-accountable, but it's always easier when there is a game plan for someone. So accountability is usually a very common problem.
Probably widespread everywhere, right? Accountability,
Absolutely.
Everybody's it's pretty much all over the place. Yeah.
Yep.
Good one. And what are some common misconceptions your clients have about making changes? Because we know making changes is the most difficult thing to do, right? So what is the main, the common misconceptions?
The most common is that they think that they need a separate training program for women when I talk about bringing women in. And that's crazy because everybody can learn the same concepts, whether you're male or female. The issue is, I always tell people, unless you're going to divide your customers into male, female, why would you need two training programs? Because even women need to learn how to work with women, and men need to learn how to work with women. So why is it necessary to have two different training programs? And that's usually the biggest misconception I get. Oh, I don't want to spend money on two different training programs. Oh, I don't want to take time to build two different training programs. Where, in fact, that's not even the case. It truly is not the case. But that is the biggest misconception that I have.
Are there other misconceptions that are worth mentioning here?
Yeah, another one would be that a lot of times women don't want to be in sales. They don't like sales. And so the company or the person themselves will say, yeah, I don't really, have to learn about sales because I don't have sales in my title. But in fact, everybody is a salesperson, whether you have the word in your title or not, because if nothing else, you are selling yourself every single day. And so, as a manager, you're trying to sell somebody to finish a project. If you're a recruiter, you're selling an opportunity. If you're in direct sales, you're selling a concept and an opportunity. So everybody's in sales. And some people really don't believe they need to learn anything about selling because they're not salespeople.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but it comes down to communicating efficiently, right?
Absolutely. You're 1,000% correct. It's all about how you get the words out. Really, that's the whole thing. And it's asking the right questions.
All right. Well, can you give an example of how businesses have benefited from this?
Yeah, absolutely. My background is insurance and financial. So a lot of times I will go in and I will speak to a company and then I'll do training for them. And inevitably what you'll see is the recruiting and the retention will increase because now they're bringing people in, male and female, and we're teaching them how to get them into the whole step-by-step process of what's going to make them successful. And if you lay it out, you don't have to hold somebody's hands and you don't have to micromanage, but if you give them the objectives, first this is what's going to happen and then this and then this and then this, the sales is the byproduct. That, it's not that you're going to help them become better salespeople. You're going to teach them the process. You're going to teach them communication. You're going to teach them how to ask questions and most of all, how to listen. All of those things will increase their sales. And that's what happens when I go into a company. The other thing that happens is there's a lot of women that I do coaching with, And, for instance, there's one woman who had a very, very, very high position in a company. And she decided, after we started coaching, she decided that that's not where she was supposed to be. Now, she hadn't been in business for years. And between the time we started and like 3 months later, she gave in her resignation. We built a company. We built all her marketing and all her sales and everything else. And within 6 months, she already had gotten 2 or 3 new clients from absolutely nothing. It came from a concept. So there's a lot of people that benefit just by learning how to communicate and how to get your message out.
Very interesting. Another thing that seems pretty interesting to me is that you developed a program called Selling to a Skirt. I guess this is a program that teaches someone to sell to women, right? Why is this so important?
Okay, so women actually are responsible for influencing 85% of all consumer purchasing decisions. 85%. And it doesn't mean just clothing or food. It means electronics. It means insurance. It means homes. It means almost anything you can think of. 85%. So if you think, if I go in and it's a husband and a wife, she's going to make the decision almost all the time. He might be the one that is making the money or more money, or maybe not, but, whatever the case may be, but she's the one that's going to decide. When I was selling insurance, who do you think took their kids to the doctor? It would be the wife. So you had to direct your information and all your content to the wife and have that conversation. Do you ever talk to the man? Absolutely, but it's really more about the female. So when I talk about selling to a skirt, you have to know that women want to be taken seriously. Women want their opinion to be heard, and they want to be part of the conversation. So if you start asking questions and the woman starts to respond and you ask more questions, she feels like she's part of the conversation, and between the two of you, you can create the solution that works for her or for her family or her company. So selling to a skirt just means, how do we work with women? How do you get your point across that it's going to be a combination? It's going to be something that the two of you have come up with. That's really what it is.
Wow. I can't help but think that this could be a spin-off also for how to talk to women, whether it is for dating or whether it is for whatever else. I mean.
Let me tell you, I did a seminar, and it was mostly men. And this man walked up to me and he said, "Oh my goodness, I now know how to talk to my wife." Which, that's fine. I can be a marriage counselor.
There you go. Interesting. Well, that was very interesting. But before we wrap it up, what one piece of advice can you give to someone who wants to start developing either type of program, but really doesn't really know where to start?
Well, I think first of all, and I shouldn't say I think, I know first of all, you have to decide what it is that you want to do, and that you have to decide what it is and who you want to do it with. So just because you have this great idea and your target market is, are women that are 40, it doesn't mean that's the playground you want to play in. So you have to decide what it is and who you want to play with. And then, if nothing else, you have to be so focused on that target and where they are and how they communicate, because otherwise you're going to be everywhere. And I can tell you that entrepreneurs are very shiny object people, so everything looks good to them. And so they're constantly flitting around all over the place. You have to be very focused. When you work for corporate America, if something sounds good in another department, you're over there as well. So you have to be extremely focused. You have to know who your target is, and you have to remember why you're doing this in the first place. Great.
That was awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here, Judy, today and sharing some of these stories with us. Now, to finish off, how can our listeners learn more or get in touch with you?
Well, everything is about selling in a skirt. So my website is www.sellinginaskirt. My email is judy@sellinginaskirt. I'm on Facebook at Selling in a Skirt. I'm on Twitter at Selling in a Skirt. Unfortunately, LinkedIn, they won't do that. So on LinkedIn, I'm Judy Hoberman.
That's okay. Well, that's easy enough. So hopefully everybody here will have a chance to maybe talk to you in the near future, because I think there's always a need for training and getting everybody to communicate better together. Better communication equals more success. I mean, in general, whatever you're after, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So once again, a huge thank you for taking the time to share your knowledge with our listeners. It was a real pleasure, Judy.
Thank you so much, and I really enjoyed it.
Okay, great.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.